Back. Gamble responsibly. See dunleary.net.
Welcome back. So plenty of texts coming in on Jack Charlton, which I'll get to very shortly. I meant to mention as well in the news round, Peter Byrne, a former Irish Times soccer correspondent, wrote a piece today, and just the last couple of lines of it are beautiful. So Peter Byrne finishes up his piece today by saying, a couple of years ago on the occasion of Jack's birthday, I talked with him on the telephone and I invited my grandson to offer his congratulations on the phone to the big man. He said to Jack, we all sing songs about you when we go to watch big games at the Aviva Stadium, he told him. Whereupon Jack asked my grandson to sing one. He launched into a not particularly skilled version of We're All Part of Jackie's Army. When he finished, Jack apparently handed the phone to his wife, who in turn asked me what had gone on during the call. She said that explains why he appeared to be so emotional. And that's the beautiful end to Peter Byrne's piece today. Let's go to a man who I'm sure saw Jack emotional, happy plenty of times as well. Packie Bonner, evening.
Good evening, Joe. How are you?
Great. So we spoke on the show about a month ago, maybe, chatting through your career, and naturally Jack Charlton featured heavily for you, and you had a stunningly successful club career as well. But for you and for so many players between 1986 and 1996, your lives were all the richer for Jack Charlton's arrival.
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate, like the rest of the guys too, but fortunate that I was there when he came in and I was there when he went. So I was there for the full 10 years. Are
you gone, Packie? Have we lost you? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Sorry, we lost you briefly. You're back now. Great.
So apologies.
Yeah. You were just saying you were there at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, and really at the end of the day, when he walked in that dressing room first, he was such a obviously impressionable man, 6'5", big man. He had that reputation, of course, because he had won the World Cup and so on. But I think he treated it all like equally, like men. I know it took a while for certain people to believe in what was happening and how he was, how he wanted the game to be played. But I think eventually, when that turned round, I think it was a sensational time for all of us.
He always seemed older than he actually was. He had an air of authority.
Yeah. That's a great observation, actually. I was just talking to my sister today about him, and I'm 60 this year, and Jack was 55 in 1930, 1990, 30 years ago when the World Cup was on. But we all felt that he was an old man, because he wore that hat and that bonnet, and he smoked a cigarette, and he had, he did look a fatherly figure and an older man, but 5 years younger than me now. I can't really believe that, actually. Maybe I look old myself. I don't know.
No, you're well preserved, but he had authority. Even we had Graham Souness on yesterday, and that was his first management job at Middlesbrough, and even Graham was saying even then he had a natural authority.
Yeah, I think so. His voice. He had a brilliant voice. I think the one thing that he set for us, Joe, was this whole environment that we went into. Success helps. There's no question. We all understand that when you start winning games and get the people behind you. But for all of us, I think every single player enjoyed coming in to the squad during that period, right through the 10 years. Even the fringe players, the guys who weren't even playing. And that's not easy when you're a manager to actually keep people motivated that's not been playing regularly in the squad. But they all love coming in because he created a lovely environment for all of us to probably excel in, mature in. And, it was really like a club environment. And he had great wit about him. Even though, and people talk about his tactical, to be honest, I think he was very tactically aware. When you actually look at it now and you see what's going on with, say, like Liverpool and Man City about this pressure and, pressing from the front and all of that type of stuff, we did it. And Jack, that was one of Jack's big strategies, the Ray Houghtons, the John Aldridges, the Frank, he got Frank Stapleton doing it, everybody, the midfielders pushing on and really pressing teams. So it's nothing new now, and we did it then, and that was a big part of it. So tactically, he was shrewd. He also, if you think about it, the opposition is critically important when you're a manager. You need to know what the opposition is doing. And he went to the World Cup in '86, and he came back, and his big thing was that these guys at the back in these European teams, they think they can play a little bit, but we're not going to let them play. So he looked at the opposition and looked at what was going to really upset them, and we capitalised on that. Yes, there would be criticism maybe of the way that we built the game up from the back, and probably we overdid it on many occasions, but not putting the ball at risk was his other big thing across the back, because he always felt that international teams, if they got that first goal, we would never beat them. So all of those things. But it took a little bit of time for the players to buy into that. But once we did, I think we, to a man, every single one of us loved playing under him and so on. So for me, it was a bit of success. His tactics were simple, but then the environment that he created for all of us to really, really enjoy our time there, be from the players to the staff around about him, fans. It was a very open culture that he had for people coming in, friends of his, people that we knew, people, the media. Everybody was allowed to be part of the whole thing, and he created that, and that takes a great bit of leadership.
Yes, it does, and confidence. And there's very little in life you can do very well unless you enjoy it, I suppose. Packie, was he one to talk to you about, I don't know, your family or your life outside of football? Was that part of his arsenal and part of his approach, or was he not that type of manager?
No, he was. He didn't actually phone you up when you left the squad. You went home and that. He didn't. He left Mick Byrne and those people to deal with that situation. But when you were inside the camp, he would talk to you individually and maybe not just about football. He would talk to you about other things. Yes, your family, and he was, of course, we all know that if he started talking about the story of the salmon, for example, you know, when he used to, I think, almost get the little eggs and put them into the river, and the salmon would run, and all of that. So he could spend an hour, actually. He could spend an hour talking about it. And it was actually really riveting when you listened to him talk, and he was so passionate about these things. And that's what made it. And then, you know, we would talk to you about your family and different things. And he had a great sense of humour too, you know, the jokes and all of the stories that the boys have told over the last couple of days, you know, without me going over them now. Every one of us has probably got about 20 stories about Jack that we could talk about all night. And that's the thing about it. When you go through these particular periods in your life and you come away from it and you reflect back on it and you have good things to talk about, wow, it's really good. You know, there's other times in my life that I couldn't talk that way about certain things, but certainly for Jack, it was all a fun, positive, brilliant time.
I can say this to you because you have made, you know, the most famous save in Irish football, and it's like the most iconic moment maybe in Irish sport. But the story that a few told over the weekend is the quip about the Pope.
Yeah, I love that story. I'm not so sure if it's true, to be perfectly honest, but it's Andy's story, and we'll stick with it because I actually enjoy it too. Because if you think about it, you know, the game was over. We're all preparing now to go home. We had just failed against Italy, but for Jack and that sort of kind of almost downheartening period for him to come out with a statement like that, the guy was thinking differently, wasn't he? You know, and it's a brilliant story. I've got so many. I don't know the last time I was on whether I told any of the stories. I love the story, and I don't know if I said it. Stop me if I have said it on your program. The story about over in Glasgow, and I took the whole international team over to play my testimonial. Did I tell you that story?
No.
Well, leading into it, I was wondering what am I going to get these guys? You know, they're coming over and all that, and I didn't want to buy them just a normal piece of crystal that was the normal thing to buy. I wanted to do something different. And if you can remember, the CD player was just coming on the market. And a portable CD player, my word, was only coming on the market. And you couldn't find them. So anyway, I found them and I got them and I put the names of all the players. But I had said to Jack that I was going to get him a box of scotch. He wanted scotch. Yeah, give me scotch. And I had that for him anyway. But I also had a CD player for him. And when we went back to the hotel, the Albion Hotel after the game for the big do and that, and then got to the stage where we were giving out the gifts, and I invited Jack to come up with the players, and he was first up. He loved the gift, you know, and he walked up, and I had the CD player out on top of the box, and he stopped about 2 yards away from me, and he says, "What the fuck is that?" He says. And I says, it's your gift, Jack, is a CD player. He says, "What am I going to do with a toaster?" He thought it was a toaster I was giving him, and he didn't want to take it. And I eventually he took it and he went back down to the table. I think then he was trying to sell it to the boys because he realised it was £15 to put a CD player into it. But that was him, he was brilliant in that way, I still give him the box of scotch though, that was for sure.
The most important thing. Did he after the Romania game, did he ever grab you in a quiet moment and said, geez, good on you? Or was he,
No, he didn't actually, because he treated us all very, very, very much the same. He didn't really.
He wasn't making you the hero.
No, absolutely. And even if fringe players come in, they were all treated exactly the same, and that's what I loved about him. I loved his honesty too, because I always had words with Jack about certain things, and he would have a go at me and I would have a go back, and that was nice to be able to do that. But he never held grudges. He never really held grudges. And the next day we would be talking as if nothing happened, and I loved that about him. And he was a straight talker, and so on. I remember actually. We played against Lithuania in a game, and Alan Kernigan was playing centre half at the time. But I'd made a mistake because I didn't get off my line. That whole thing that he wanted me to be the sweeper at the back. And this particular game, I failed. I didn't get off my line, and Lithuania scored. We ended up winning the game actually, but we won the game. So the next day we were in training. We had a game the following week, so we were back in training, and he pulled the whole squad together and. I was there and I come into the group, and he started then talking to me, and he says, Packie, he says, we love you. We think you're the best goalkeeper in the world. The fans love you and that, but never do that again. Never do what you did yesterday again. So he had that brilliant ability to get his message across to you without almost knocking you down in front of the guys. He built me up first to nail it. And that I loved within the manager. He was a clever man in how he dealt with us guys. And we were all experienced guys, so he knew how to deal with us.
When did you last see him, Packie?
We had that reunion in the K Club, which was great, a year ago. And he came over, Pat, brilliant wife, 62 years, married, it's incredible, and she was such a soldier for him alongside him. And John, his son, came with him, and he was over. He was a bit vacant. What I did like was that I didn't get there until late in the first night, and they had already arrived, and there was a barbecue on. And each person was, when they came into the room, was introduced, whoever the compere was on that first night. But Jack, when I walked in and they mentioned my name, Jack stood up for some reason. He must have always recognised the name, and he stood up and kind of clapped. And I was so humbled by that he, even in the state he was in, his memory, that he kind of remembered who I was, and it was lovely. And he was out in the golf course and going around in the buggy, and he would kind of give you the thumb up if you had a good shot and the thumb down if you didn't, that type of stuff. And even in that stage, he was still giving us criticism, but it was nice, and it was lovely to see him, and lovely to be with his family and just see him coming in, and the vision he got when he actually left the room on the night of the dinner was amazing. And I think most of us that probably were there realised that we might never see him again at that point, and that's what actually happened. So that was the last time I seen him,
It shows the importance of getting together for those reunions, doesn't it, and making the
absolutely
efforts.
And we thank Niall and the guys for organising it.
Yeah, I know you're in Donegal, I think I heard, so you're aware of the outpouring this weekend, and a point to finish on is, people are sad and nostalgic here for lots of reasons. I think a lot of people are doing the maths and subtracting 30 from their age and suddenly can't believe what they were then and what they are now, and that's part of it. But also, what's been so apparent over the last 2 days, and it just jumped out at me, is the bond between your team, Jack's team, and the supporters, and the way that has endured, but also listening to all of you guys on English media, on Irish media, everybody coming out, and one or two even too upset to come out, I know, is genuinely, I can't think of another team that have such a bond with their manager in football. I can't think of one.
I remember talking to Martin O'Neill about their relationship with Brian Clough, and they had obviously a real bond with him too, and he got in, you know, even in his days where he was struggling a little bit. But what Martin said to me was, he says about Brian, they give Brian Clough a little bit of stick because he obviously got into a bit of a state, and they were able to. But if other people give out about Brian Clough, they all stood up for Brian Clough. You know what I mean? So they had that bond. We are probably the same. We can tell so many funny stories against Jack and for Jack, and all of us. But I think if there was other people probably slagging him off, we would stand up because we loved the man with a passion. And let's face it, we would never have got to where we got, I think, without somebody of that personality and character. He was a leader. He gave us a responsibility. We stood up to it. He blended us into an unbelievable good team. We had great players, don't get me wrong. We had unbelievable players. We were unlucky to lose the likes of Liam and Mark Lawrence and early on in the European Championship. Two unbelievable players. And then for us to continue and get success under him, it was quite incredible. And that I think it's the way he treated us. He treated us men. He treated us with respect. It was a great probably union between the players and him. And I keep saying that success does help in that way. And I've been in other dressing rooms where we've had a bit of it, but sometimes you lose it when you don't have success. But I think just the way that he created an environment to allow us to enjoy the experience for 10 years was quite incredible. And you know, I owe him so much. You know, a young man coming from the northwest of Donegal. I'm down here, as you rightly say, at the moment. I came over on Friday and the news broke on Saturday, and it's been unbelievable. And the reaction from the people in Ireland, the fans, and I'm so glad that I'm actually in Ireland experiencing it, because normally I'm living in Scotland and you don't get as much unless you tune into the radio stations, which I do on a regular basis, but you don't really get the feel for it. But when you're here and you're listening to what's going on and the reaction to it, and the other thing I could say, I think we're very proud that Jack was the Irish manager. You know, he had unbelievable success in England as winning a World Cup with Leeds United, with manager Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Sheffield Wednesday, all of those things. But equally, he's probably as well known throughout the world because of his exploits with Ireland. And we should be very, very proud of that.
Listen, thanks so much, because I know you've done a few interviews, and I'm sure it takes.
Repeated myself many times.
No. Well, listen, we appreciate your time, Packie Bonner. Thanks so much, Packie. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. When you've done your hammer during PE with Joe, relax. The football's back. Gamble responsibly. See dunleary.net.
Moncrief.
On a literal sense, men can't help if high-rise buildings look like penises. What would she prefer? Boob-shaped buildings? I don't know if she would, but I certainly would.
Moncrief.
With the all-new Dacia Duster.
Weekdays from 2 p.m.